Heanor lies in Derbyshire, and before I came here, if I'd been asked about it, I'd have said largely a coalfield background. Although it's near Derby and Nottingham, it never occurred to me that there would also be a strong hosiery and knitwear tradition. Well, beyond that, I had no notion, nothing at all to go on, and until I saw the church, St. Lawrence's, standing on a hilltop against the afternoon sky, I knew nothing of what it looked like. So I took a walk around the market, bought myself a spectacle case to replace a lost one, and then turned round and went back to the council offices, once a home owned by a doctor who was a sort of Dr. Cameron of his time, to meet Mr. Geoffrey Stone, who teaches at Heanor Grammar School. Indeed, he's headmaster there. Now, Mr. Stone, put me right, please. Was it coal, and is it still, which provides principal employment in Heanor?
Well, at one time it was, but not originally. Heanor, of course, there was a village here, so they say, in Saxon times. And certainly there have been people living up on the hill above the river for many, many centuries.
Was it a geographical thing then?
I think it probably was, yes. They were up above the river valley. They were probably on a trade route. But the coal only came at the end of the 18th century, when good coal was found not far below the surface.
There was a local story somebody told me about having an exceptional drought, and they dug down deep.
That's what they say, though some of the coal is not very far down at all. Certainly they found a very good seam of coal, and that led to the development of the mines in the area.
They were very prosperous and very peaceful mines, weren't they, on the whole?
Oh, I think so, yes. This part of the coal field has a long tradition of high output, good relationships, and I think, very effective working because of this.
And a strong community spirit, which happens everywhere in a coal field.
Yes, I think this is certainly true. It's one of the things that struck me most forcibly when I first came here, that there was this very strong local pride, and I'm sure it derives from, I think, shared danger, a shared determination to succeed in difficult circumstances that you get in the coal fields.
Talking in the past to a certain extent about coal, what's replaced it?
Well, first of all, of course, the older industry that was up here before the coal, the hosiery, has always been going on, and you've two very large hosiery factories. But in addition, there are some very large works that have grown up: iron and steel, pottery, timber frame buildings. And then in recent years, because the Heanor Council could see that the mining industry was going to die, they've attracted new industries, and in particular, there's a flourishing plastics factory, for instance. So it's a mixture of the old and the new.
So there's no sign of the place dying?
Oh, the place is certainly not dying. In fact, one of the remarkable things about it is its resilience in adjusting itself to the new circumstances and looking to the future, making sure that there always was a future. I think you can see this if you go round the town.
You didn't come from here, but you're proud of it.
I am, yes. I don't mind saying so. I originally come from the south. I'm a Mancunian by adoption, but I've certainly grown so fond of Heanor I wouldn't think of leaving it.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Stone. Now, what about music? Start us off on our trip round.
Well, I'm very fond of Mozart opera.
You're clutching Pirates of Penzance, I notice.
Well, that's because the school's doing it this coming year. But I'm particularly fond of Mozart, and what I should like is the lovely aria from the Magic Flute, the Birdcatcher's song, Der Vogelfänger bin ich ja.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, that's lovely. Long before the coal mines dominated the industrial scene in Heanor, there was the sturdy, older industry of lace-making, for which Nottingham itself was famous the world over. Well, coal took pride of place for a time, but then lace-making in Heanor continued all that while. Then coal subsided, and lace-making enjoyed a revival which has continued ever since. Geoffrey Fletcher, whom we're going to talk to now, is about fifth or sixth, perhaps even more, in a line of Fletchers who've been making lace in Heanor since when, Mr. Fletcher?
Since about 1830.
Was this great-great-grandfather or what?
This was great-great-grandfather, yes.
Now, was it cottage manufacture then when great-great-grandfather started out? Were they still doing it on little hand looms in the small houses?
I think undoubtedly, in the first place, it would be a cottage industry. But we do know that towards the end of the 1830s, he purchased land to build a factory on the north side of the Derby-Heanor Turnpike Road. This was subsequently built to hold rather larger machines, and at the turn of the century our present factory was built to hold the latest 224-inch levers lace machines.
I've heard of levers before. Now, they're a very old machine which has continued more or less unchanged, aren't they?
Well, John Levers made his first machine in 1813, but it wasn't until the jacquard principle was introduced to that machine that lace became the more intricate article as we know it today. And I would say it reached the peak of its prosperity even towards the turn of the century.
1813. I know that shortly after that, some of the Nottingham men, probably from Heanor as well, took the machines piecemeal to Calais and re-erected them there against all the rules and regulations. But now the levers machine still works efficiently, does it?
It does, yes, it works efficiently. In fact, we find that the modern man-made fibres are ideally suited to the levers lace machine.
How are the patterns set up?
Well, this is a very complicated business, really.
It's almost punch card, isn't it?
Yes, the levers work on the punch card system. It is quite a long job to set a machine up. There are something like 15,000 threads at work in a levers machine.
Yes. Now, one thing that interests me, I think it interests all men and women actually, is the change in fashion. Has that affected you very severely? I've seen a lot of girls wearing lace dresses, a lot more lace curtains in houses and so on. Seems to be a lot more popular. Has this meant more work for you?
Well, we are certainly very busy, but we find that the conventional lace is rather slack at the moment, and we are busy on novelties.
Such as?
Well, the advent of bulk nylon has really meant a transfer from the underwear to outerwear garments in the form of blouses and dresses.
This is where I think we're conscious of having seen these fabrics, yes. But, I mean, did the miniskirt make a lot of difference to you?
Well, of course, with a miniskirt, one cannot utilise, say, a 6-inch breadth lace for petticoats because
they're not there.
They're not there.
They've been dropped, haven't they? Well, now I'd like to ask you to choose a piece of music for us, please, Mr. Fletcher. What would you like to hear?
Well, I would very much like to hear the theme from Dr. Zhivago.
Heanor makes a contribution to many homes in Britain of which most people are completely unaware. Let me explain. If you sit and look at your television set, or perhaps listen to your radio, in many instances the cabinet came from a works here. Perhaps the desk your youngster sits at in school was made in Heanor. It's one of the big industries in the town. It all began, and I think I'm right, with a 42 bob chicken house. But I'm jumping the gun a bit. Mr. Vic Hallam is the head of the concern, and it was because he used to keep chickens that he knew what was wanted. It surprises me that you didn't go into the pits, because that was the main industry when you were a boy, I suppose, Mr. Hallam?
Oh, yes. I went into the pit.
You did?
Oh, yes. Yes, all my mother's side were managers down there under Squire Mundy, and it was natural for me to want to go down there. So, mind you, I didn't want to tell you this, but I went right through to the coalface.
Yeah.
But never interested in mining engineering and that sort of thing.
That was the logical thing, I suppose, to take classes in mining engineering.
Oh, yes, that is
You
so.
kept chickens instead. Why?
Aye, that's it. Well, I mean, do you want me to tell you about my brother? Yes, well, he had his little poultry farm and fancied I step a colt, and he says, all right, well, I can't have this unless I sell my poultry farm. So father says, right, well, now, I'll buy it. How much do you want for it? He says, I want £80. He says, right, well, we'll buy it if Vic will have half. Well, I got no money, only about 8 or 10 quid, something like that. And so I worked my share off from the profits, and so we started like that. And of course, it gave me the know-how
Yes.
of what poultry needed.
What
So
did you
that
use for
later on-
timber?
Oh, well, I mean, in the first cases, it was, we used the factory yarn cases from the iron arm molders, still going, of course. We're going strong now. And then I got under new timber, and it was that, I think that was the start of the business when I started using new timber to make and mark this, a sectional poultry house. Not 4 posts with boards on, but a house made in parts, that went together.
You intrigued me about this 42 bob chicken house, though. That really began it, you said. How?
Well, in so much that was the first sale, you see. So people began to notice us.
Who bought it?
Oh, that was the matron of the nursing home at Heanor. And I remember this so very well because I'd put the price on the door in rather thick creosote. It hadn't been creosote before, and I'd put this price, 42 shillings. And when I delivered this thing, and she said, well, now, will you creosote it all over? Well, the creosote I was using was lighter. And there she got this stuck up in her garden.
You should have put a pound sign in front of it, shouldn't you?
42 shilling on the door. She says, Mr. Hallam, how'd you call me, Vic? She says, I don't think I'd put the price so large,
What sort of acreage does your works cover now? Think back to that day when you made your first chicken house and think to the day now, and what sort of acreage does your works cover?
Aye, well, now at Langdonville we've got 70 acres.
Yeah.
70 acres, and this new factory at Eastwood is standing on another 25-acre site, and that'll make us 100 altogether.
Do you still make chicken houses and greenhouses?
Aye, no greenhouses, but chicken houses are half a mile long.
Yes.
Old,
the big industrial ones.
Yes, 10,000, 20,000 at a time.
Well,
Terrific.
thank you very much, Mr. Hallam. Now, what about music? Would you choose something for our program?
Aye, well now, my granddaughter rang down just a little while ago and she knew you were coming. She says, have Woodstock. I said, well, I don't know Woodstock. I said, I'm going to have Climb Every Mountain because I like Climb Every Mountain.
All right, well, that's a very good reason. I'm sorry, granddaughter, you won't get Woodstock, but here, for grandfather is Climb Every Mountain. Lace, so far as the Fletchers were concerned, started in 1813 in Heanor. The timber firm that Vic Hallam started with packing cases for wood and made from them hen coops and chicken houses was an upstart of the 20s. But what a flourishing upstart it was, and still is for that matter. Whereas the newest of all industries here, plastics, was begun by Robert Hayden Morley and Ted Coward. Started with a few polythene bags, and that was in 1965. Now, in 1970, the partners have a large share of the packaging market, very big factory and a lot of machinery to back it. Now, this means that a lot of those miners who may have lost their employment, become redundant with the closure of pits around Heanor, have been able to find employment here, being so adaptable and so reliable. Something like 200 employees, of whom quite a proportion are miners, and more will be recruited in the next few months. But now, Mr. Morley, let's go back a bit before 1965. After all, that is only 5 years ago. What sort of business experience had you? Had you been trained in this industry?
No, I didn't have any business experience at all. When I left the Navy in 1965, I had several jobs, selling vacuum cleaners, insurance, working as a clerk in a textile office. Finally, in 64, I got a job as a clerk in a polythene company. And after being there for 6 months, I saw opportunities for others to get in this business. And so I gave my notice and started merchanting on my own account, I should say.
So you were buying plastic bags and selling them on to somebody else. Somebody else was making them, in other words.
Oh, we're buying plastic bags from other manufacturers and from abroad and reselling them in smaller quantities, yes.
Doing it whole time to begin with?
Oh, no. I was working in the evenings and, yes, full-time during the day, yes.
What made you decide to start up on your own to manufacture?
Well, this happened when our turnover got reasonably large, and we found that we weren't giving our own customers the service that they should have because our suppliers weren't giving us the backing. And the only way that we could guarantee to give service was to go into manufacture on our own account.
By this time you knew perfectly well what sort of machines to buy.
Yes, we had a good idea of the plant that we wanted.
I suppose you worked your first machine day and night, 365 days in a year, did you?
I'm not sure whether we had one day off in the first year, but pretty well something like that.
You've continued this policy of ploughing back the whole time, I take it?
Yes, we've made a lot of profits, but we've spent every penny we've made and more besides on new plant and new factory buildings.
What sort of cost is the machinery that you're operating now?
In excess of 300,000.
And is that your lot, or are you going on?
No, we're going to spend more than that in this current year on further plants.
Now, perhaps correct me, but as I understand it, polythene, which comes originally from the oil industry, comes in to you in bulk, in little tiny granules, about like lentils or rice, and then you push it through a machine like a toothpaste tube. It comes out the other end, and then you slit the tube up, and this is reeled off. Now, isn't it at the limit of its use? I begin to feel now everything's packed in polythene. Do you still see an expanding market?
Oh, we've only just started in the market. It's going to expand at 15% for the next 6 years, and probably more than that from 76 to 81. There's new applications being used every day for polythene. I see a very good future for it.
I know that butchers who used to be content with wrapping things up in greaseproof paper or with newspaper even, now everything's enclosed, and this can go on, I suppose. And I imagine not only this country, but other countries will be buying from you.
Well, we sell something like 200 million bags per year for butchers, and this is going to increase, certainly.
So anywhere you look is a market.
It's a good business to be in.
All right, well, thank you very much indeed. Now, what about music? I know the cash register is music. You like to plough back your profits, but have a tune for a change.
Well, I like Peter Sellers and Sophia Loren, and goodness gracious me.
And so do I. Thank you. For that epic encounter of Sophia Loren and the overwhelmed doctor of Peter Sellers, we were talking to Bob Morley about the increasing opportunities for employment within his factory, and I assumed that must have assisted some of the ex-miners of Heanor. Well, here's one of them working for Bob Morley. He's another Bob, Robert Gregory. Now, when did you change over from pit to plastics?
3 years now.
Was it forced on you, or did you do it of your own choice?
Of my own choice.
But the pit was closing.
The pit was closing, and we chose to go to other pits, and about had enough, so I decided to take a change. And this opportunity come along, I took it. It's been very advantage to me. I've gone very well here.
What about your wife? Was she in favour of it?
Well, yes, I think so. We had enough, worrying when you're there, and
obviously you can leave a factory and have an accident on the way home, but this is not quite the same as always being that ever-present fear of a miner's wife, I suppose.
No, you'd always got that fear when you were at work. When you're in a factory, your mind's more at ease than what it was when you were out mines.
Of course, you were on shift work in the mines, I suppose?
Yeah, well, I had 15 years of regular afternoons. There wasn't a lot of changing over shifts in our pit.
And when you came here, you had to work shift?
Yes, I took the 3 shifts, 7 days a week. That was the worst part of it, going off 5 days a week. And to get equal wages to what I was getting down the pits, we'd either got to make a lot of overtime, either 12-hour shifts or 7 days a week.
To equalise it?
Yeah.
Now, leaving out the question of security or money, do you ever feel a pang for the old life? I mean, miners is a very strong community, and you came from a mining family.
Well, sometimes, brother working with me sometimes says, I wish the sink another shaft didn't feel next to the factory. I should be first there.
Really, as strong as that?
As strong as that, yes. You're still that. You miss the community down pits altogether different.
Yes.
You can't explain it.
Were you a Bevan boy?
Yes, I was a real Bevan boy.
And your father and your grandfather were all in the pits?
Yes, uncles
And wife's family too?
Yes.
Oh, I can see how close-knit it must have been. All right, well now, please, Bob, choose a piece of music for us. Pick out something you'd like us to play for you.
Well, I'd like Jim Reeves, Moonlight and Roses.
Lovely, thank you. A firm whose products have long been nationally, well, even internationally, famous, has all the time been based on Heanor. And from these works have gone out garments and hosiery for about a century. There was a time, it's true, when the warehouse was in Cheapside in London, along with the offices, but that's been reversed, and the management is now bang next door to where the stuff is actually made. Mr. Tyler, you're a director, and you've been with the firm a goodish time. I seem to think that years ago everything the firm made was made from wool. Has that changed?
Oh, yes, this is perfectly true. Most of the merchandise was manufactured here in wool, apart from stockings and things like that, which were silk in those days. But certainly over the last few years, synthetics have come into their own.
There's still a proportion of wool used, I suppose.
Oh, yes, a proportion, but a decreasing proportion, perhaps.
Yes, new uses have been found for the synthetics and new treatments of them, I suppose.
Yes, oh, absolutely. Everything, all the processes are new completely for synthetics.
As I came in to meet you here, I passed dye works. Now, it seems to me you do everything from start to finish, more or less, don't you? Right to the point where it goes to the retailer?
Yes, we do. Here now, we knit, dye, and finish. Make up and finish, and dispatch to the retailer.
So that you are eventually responsible for the colours and the patterns, that is the actual the print patterns or the woven patterns, as well as the shape of the garment.
Responsible for colours, yes, and texture of the yarns and the manufacture right through.
This argues that you've got to be trendsetters to a certain extent.
Well, we have. We've got to be a step ahead because I suppose we are more than a year ahead, probably, of the season.
But you're planning next autumn's garments?
We're planning now. We have, in fact, planned a lot of next autumn's garments now.
As I feel it, too, the industry, the wool industry as a whole, was a bit old-fashioned, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yes, I think it was. But UK manufacturers now have got a challenge, of course. They've got to compete against low-cost imports, and they are doing that.
Well, we've seen a great change in the last few years, in any case, with the very fashion-conscious young, and I suppose this is something that's been forced on you willy-nilly. If you want to sell garments, you've got to make them for the kids who've got the money to spend.
Yes, I would say that there's possibly, call it a style explosion that's taking place over the last 2 or 3 years.
It's a challenge for you, isn't it?
It is a terrific challenge, yes.
I mean, you sit at your board meetings or you go in with your designers and discuss all these things, and you've got to be, as you said, in your phrase, that jump ahead.
Yes, you have, yes.
How many people do you employ here in Heanor?
We have about 1,400 in Heanor.
You've got a factory elsewhere doing the hosiery side now?
Yes, in Sutton.
Or to tights and stockings and so on?
Tights and stockings, yes. And, nylon.
But is it, because it has been a mining community, do you find that there's a strong family feeling within the firm?
Oh, very much so, especially in this company. As you mentioned, that we've been here about 100 years in Heanor. And we have fathers, mothers, daughters and sons working here. And this is wonderful for communications too. Over the breakfast table, I suppose, or pint in the evening. It's all communications.
And if you've treated the family well in the past, that is, as employees, you can look to your recruitment to the up-and-coming members of that family.
Yes.
What bit of music would you like, Mr. Tyler?
Well, may I have La Ronde?
Lovely,
please?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
Everything we've seen and talked about has emphasized that the Heanor locality is thriving and that the community is a very go-ahead one. But all the time, of necessity, we've concentrated on what is happening now. So let's talk to John Barlow, clerk to the council, about the future. Mr. Barlow, your chairman, Alderman Mrs. Hart, said that Heanor's got a lot of very exciting plans to improve things. Can you point out a few of the things you're hoping to do?
Certainly. Every mining area, as you will be aware, has problems with colliery spoil heaps, and we at Heanor are determined to tackle this problem in 2 definite and distinct ways. To begin with, to remove the spoil heaps and redevelop the area for future industry, and secondly, to take a particular area in the locality, remove the dereliction and replace it with a country park.
Now, I want to ask you a question about that, because you've got the motorway passing quite close to the town, the M1. When people have motorways, the first thing they do, if they've got a spoil heap in the neighbourhood, they rush out and sell it to the motorway authorities for the sort of groundwork. But that's happened, and yet you've still got the spoil heaps. How are you going to get rid of them? It's going to be expensive.
This is so, but we're particularly fortunate in this respect, that in one instance there is surface coal which the open cast executive are going to mine, and having done so, we are to replace the whole with the spoil that is there, taking the opportunity to use the contours to produce a country lake, country park, and so on. And in the other instance, the existing site is most uneven, it's very poor quality land, but by suitable earth moving over the whole area, we can arrive at a very stable, level, useful site available for future development.
Is that where the factories are going to go?
Indeed, yes.
Now, you're going to make a factory area which is pleasant to work in and so on. What about sports facilities? Are you going to include those at all?
Well, I'm pleased you mentioned this because my council are particularly keen on this aspect and emphasise it, because not only must people have somewhere to work, but also somewhere to enjoy their leisure activities. And only this year, in August, we opened a new indoor swimming pool and learners pool costing £250,000, the Sergeant William Gregg Baths, named after our local hero, Sergeant Gregg, who won the Victoria Cross in 1918 for distinguished conduct and bravery.
Now, what about music, please, Mr. Barlow?
Well, Mrs. Hart couldn't be with us, but on her behalf, I wish to ask you for Velia from the Merry Widow.
Thank you very much indeed. Right at the start, Geoffrey Stone of the grammar school emphasised that in spite of pit closures, and the shrinkage, well, the virtual disappearance, indeed, of one industry, Heanor is very much on the up and up, and we've seen it for ourselves, with the big timber concern, the plastics bag firm, after all, only started 5 years ago, the old established but forward-looking knitwear enterprise. So much for the dismal jimmies, and good luck to Heanor. Next week, we're off to Middleton in Lancashire. So until then, it's goodbye from the Down Your Way team.